In 2014, Legendary Pictures and Warner Brothers started the new American reboot franchise now known as the MonsterVerse. Starting with Gareth Edwards' Godzilla, followed by Kong Skull Island, Godzilla King of the Monsters, Godzilla vs. Kong, and Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. I just recently watched all these films, and I'm going to go through each of them and give my thoughts. Because some of them, I think, are extremely good. I mean, almost too good. And some of them are extremely bad.
Almost too bad.
Let's begin. Godzilla 2014 was directed by Gareth Edwards, and I'm just gonna come out and say it. I love this movie. This movie is an underrated masterpiece of massive scale, thought-provoking blockbuster filmmaking, and general audiences seemed to completely miss the point. This is the closest we've got to the original Godzilla from 1954 in terms of its melancholic tone since 1954, which, in my opinion, is the correct tone for a Godzilla movie. We start the film with Bryan Cranston and his wife and son, and Gareth Edwards doesn't really waste any time getting us well acquainted with these characters, as very soon after meeting them, we get this heart-wrenching moment where Bryan Cranston's wife unfortunately dies from some unknown disaster. And though we don't know these characters very well, it's still extremely impactful, in part by Bryan Cranston being an incredibly talented actor, and also Gareth Edwards just directing the hell out of him. After this, we cut to 15 years later, where his son, named Ford, is now played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. The two of them sneak into a quarantined area to retrieve some data to prove Bryan Cranston's conspiracy about what actually happened to his wife. They get captured there by the scientists who are trying to keep under wraps the thing that has been causing these disasters. We see all of this to get us introduced to the human characters, get us invested in them, and then completely sideline them for the real meat and potatoes of the movie, the thing that's been causing these disasters, Godzilla, and also the other titans. I think the main point Edwards is trying to get across here is the immense power of nature and how, in the grand scheme of things, humans don't actually matter. Godzilla is a force of nature that humans simply cannot control. Through the destruction brought on by Godzilla and company, Edwards conveys the insignificance and vulnerability of human endeavors in the face of nature's wrath. We see the military's effort to control and dominate the monsters, critiquing humans' instinct to confront nature with force rather than understanding and respect. The original Godzilla was a metaphor for nuclear destruction. Here, Edwards tweaks it a little. Godzilla, though very destructive, is depicted as a natural counterbalance to the other titans. If the other monsters symbolize the unintended consequences of humanity's reckless exploitation of natural resources, Godzilla acts as a natural counterbalance, a creature whose existence restores equilibrium. Edwards is indicating that nature always finds a way to correct itself. I'm also just now realizing how Spielberg-inspired this is, and not just in the obvious Jurassic Park parallels. In terms of scale, entertainment, interesting themes, this film is right up there with Jurassic Park. And this is some of the most impressive blockbuster action I've ever seen. It's beautifully shot and staged, with perfect build-ups and payoffs. There's real weight and impact to every beat. The Godzilla shots are almost exclusively shot from the human perspective to really convey the massive scale of what we're seeing and how utterly powerless humans are in this fight. This not only enhances the suspense, but also grounds the film in reality.
Hey, but they don't show Godzilla until halfway through the movie.
That's the point.
They kill off the main character that we're getting invested in 40 minutes into the movie.
That's the point.
Nothing the human characters do matter.
That's the point.
It's like the human characters don't mean anything when the Godzilla attacks.
That's the point.
Holy hell, there's a lot of points in this movie.
People complain about how long it takes to see Godzilla, and I have to completely disagree. When we finally see him show up, the moment is cathartic. Compare that to the films that follow, where we see him in every scene, it loses its magic. This is reminiscent of the use of the shark in Jaws, directed by Steven Spielberg. I guess what I'm trying to say is Gareth Edwards is a Spielberg superfan, which, same. And back to what I said about the humans not mattering, this is directly coming from the themes of the film. But as the films in this franchise go along, that theme is no longer explored. And the humans just don't matter because the filmmakers aren't attempting to do anything with them. Overall, it's a surprisingly sophisticated, beautifully crafted spectacle of a film that is severely underrated. Now let's get to the next film. Kong Skull Island 2017 was directed by Jordan Vogt Roberts. This movie has a visually appealing color palette and a 1970s aesthetic, which I quite enjoyed. Too bad half the movie looks like a video game and the other half is just Jordan Vogt Roberts trying, and failing, to recreate the immaculate vibes of Apocalypse Now and Full Metal Jacket. It's missing 100% of the heart and romanticism of Peter Jackson's epic remake. It's got clunky, pre-visualized CGI fights with absolutely zero emotional weight and characters with even less to latch onto. And that's including Kong, which this movie is greatly missing Andy Serkis's work as Kong in Peter Jackson's epic remake. I get that the filmmaker's main focus was on the action spectacle, but believe me, that's just one piece of the puzzle of filmmaking. If the narrative and character work are done right too, it enhances the whole thing. You're just missing out on the true potential of what a massive scale, big budget monster movie can be. There's also no attempt whatsoever to explore the ramifications of man's intrusion into nature or the emotional consequences of violence, things that are normally associated with films like these. Speaking of missed emotional potential, the relationship between Kong and Brie Larson is so underdeveloped. It's essentially non-existent. Compare that to Peter Jackson's King Kong, where the human-monster bond between King Kong and Naomi Watts is the heart of the film. It's crucial to the emotional core, and it gets the audience invested in the fate of the characters. In Kong Skull Island, Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson are just cliched plot devices we know nothing about outside of their superficial motivations. There's nothing here. What was all this for? I will say, at least in this one, it seems like they're kind of self-aware about how non-important the human characters are. And I'll give it to them for actually having one funny bit where Shea Wiggum is about to have his big dramatic moment where he sacrifices himself to save the rest of the characters, and then he just gets knocked into a cliff and explodes, and it has absolutely no impact on anything. And they just let that speak for itself. There's no stupid cutaway to another character saying some unfunny quip. It's pretty refreshing. But most of the time, the characters are just talking in either modern action blockbuster lingo or actually trying to be in a serious Vietnam War film for some reason. It just doesn't go together at all. In the end, none of the characters were interesting and none of the action meant anything. It fails to deliver the emotional weight that a King Kong movie should have. If you couldn't tell already, I love Peter Jackson's film, and everyone should just go watch that one instead. Please. Next movie. Godzilla King of the Monsters came out in 2019 and was directed by Michael Dougherty. Now, this film has even less of an artistic vision than Skull Island did, and it feels 100% made by the decisions of studio executives. It's again missing all the weight and scale of the first one. And also, like Skull Island, all of the action is just pre-visualized to hell. Everything the 2014 film had to say about humanity's insignificance in the face of nature's catastrophes is gone. We keep cutting away to the humans like they mean something, and it's just sad because they aren't even written well like they were before. So they listened to all the dorks who complained about not seeing Godzilla enough, and now they constantly show him, but everything's covered in clouds of dust or rain, and I can't see shit. I don't even know what I'm looking at.
What the hell is going on there?
There's truly no subtext even attempted in this thing. It feels like the filmmakers think so little of the audience that they assume all they need to do is give us cool images and big monsters fighting, which 1 is insulting, and 2, they hardly even deliver on those counts either. Like, yeah, there's definitely some cool images in this film, but every cool moment is butchered by a quick cutaway to one of the most annoying characters in the entire franchise. The only actor in this thing worth a is Kyle Chandler, who at least conveys something in his depressed, divorced dad of a face. This movie had me questioning if I was a sociopath because I'm sitting here watching all this death, watching the literal life leave the body of multiple humans, and I feel nothing. This movie made me feel numb. It's not even fun to make fun of. It's just depressing. Let's just move on to the next one. Hopefully that one's better. It's not. Godzilla vs. Kong came out in 2021. This movie was directed by Adam Wingard. With Godzilla vs. Kong, Adam Wingard and company completely abandon any sense of this being set in the same universe as the 2014 film. They just go full-on Fast and Furious, except In Fast and Furious, the difference in tone between the first one and the last one isn't as big as the difference in tone between the 2014 Godzilla film and this film right here. They clearly just don't care about the characters in this movie, so why even bother trying to get us to take any of them seriously? Turn up the goofiness all the way and let them act like they're in the movie that they're in, which is hollow, impressively idiotic, mindless CGI junk made for 13-year-old boys. Every single main character should be getting either gruesomely or hilariously killed one by one every time it cuts back to one of them. They have all the actors acting like they're in Oppenheimer. These people should be delivering the most unhinged, wacky performances of their lives. Like, why are all these characters still alive in the end? I get it if you're like trying to get these characters to be in every movie so the audience can fall in love with them and keep rooting for them, but then at the same time, they act like they don't matter and give them no development whatsoever. No one gives a shit about any of these people. I see a lot of people saying this movie's self-aware and that it knows it's just a stupid, dumb popcorn movie, but it still takes itself too seriously to actually be fun. I want to see Jason Statham and Vin Diesel in these movies. God help me, I'll even take Ryan Reynolds. I want to see Vin Diesel go 1v1 with Kong and actually get a couple good hits in on him. As much as I prefer the tone of the 2014 film, this is clearly the tone that they're sticking with now. So own it. These cowards are still trying to make these real movies, and it just comes across as pathetic. You are junk, you eat with the rats, embrace it. Get weird, get sleazy, I'm begging you. Oh, and the Godzilla Kong fights have nothing behind them yet again. Just lifeless, uninspired garbage. Okay, next film. Godzilla Kong, the Godzilla X New Empire 2024. For this film, they brought back Adam Wingard to direct again, and I do think that this film is a tiny step in the right direction. It's got a few fun moments, but it still suffers from incoherently staged fight scenes set on the ugliest CGI backdrops imaginable, the same god-awfully written characters, and the most pointless plot of the franchise yet, which is saying a lot. Adam Wingard is just so caught up in trying to make these movies fun that he's completely missing out on giving anything that happens any weight. At least this film seems like it's starting to understand what it is. It's starting to embrace the Saturday morning cartoon nature of it all, and I do think the addition of Dan Stevens' character, who's like a monster veterinarian or something, really helps with this, because he seems to know exactly what he needs to be doing in this film. But as a whole, they still can't seem to fully embrace the goofy nature that they seem so eager to adopt. Still constantly cutting back to self-serious dialogue and an attempt at exploring deeper themes this script just can't handle. So it still just doesn't fully land, and it really would have been a better time if I were drunk. Yep, I forgot. Godzilla 2014 introduced the title character with a sense of gravitas and respect for its source material. It introduced characters with clear motivations and arcs. It was patient to show Godzilla's emergence, building suspense and maximizing the impact, and it explored fascinating themes of human hubris and the balance of nature. Basically, what I'm saying is, the film balanced massive scale spectacles, sophisticated themes, and emotional weight, setting up for an incredible new MonsterVerse, only to get followed up by 4 films that are inconsistent in tone and direction, lacking in both style and substance, and don't even attempt to say anything meaningful. But hey, there's nothing I can do about it except complain, and I just did that, so I got it all out, and now I feel better. I feel better! Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know what you thought of these movies down in the comments below. Let me know your ranking. Let me know if you think I'm full of shit, if you agree with me, whatever the case may be. Like the video, it means a lot. If you want to look fresh and rep the movies like me, I have a link down below to these sweatshirts and a bunch of other products that will help support the channel. I plan on making a lot more videos like this in the future, so subscribe if you haven't yet, and I guess I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.